The Gates of Camino.
On a quiet winter evening in 1997, movie buffs were enjoying an animated short before the feature presentation at Hollywood's Silent Movie Theater. Without warning, the silence was broken by gunfire in the theater's lobby. LAPD detective Alan Hamilton.
A suspect entered and purchased a ticket and entered the auditorium and watched for approximately 30 minutes the screening. The suspect returned to the cashier area and announced a robbery, produced a handgun. The suspect then pointed the handgun directly at the head of Mr. Austin, fired one shot at point-blank range. He then fired additional shots, and then he ran through the auditorium, down an aisle, firing more shots over the head of the patrons and out a back door to a waiting vehicle.
When the smoke cleared, 74-year-old owner Lawrence Austin was dead, and a 17-year-old concession worker was severely wounded. Ron Russell is a reporter for New Times, a weekly newspaper in Los Angeles.
The response was disbelief. Who would want to kill this benevolent old fellow? It just did not smell right.
All right. What
Dude,
the fuck?
I was like, let's talk about it. Let's record it about Frankenhooker and the Silent Movie Theater. Oh my God.
Let's go. Let's talk about Silent Movie Theater because we mentioned this. You used to live near there, huh? On Fairfax?
I did. I lived right behind. So Fairfax runs north and south. And so I lived directly behind it on Hayworth Avenue.
Oh,
and
I know where that's at. That's right.
Like
okay.
a block down, like a block or so down. I lived kind of like right behind Supreme. If I don't think Supreme's there anymore, but like Cantor's, that's right. Cantor's Deli. Remember Cantor's?
Yeah. Oh, fuck
that's
yeah.
Still
I love
there.
Cantor's.
Right. Open all night.
Yeah.
So,
Cantor's
I used to live right there.
Yeah, Cantor's was. So I was we'll get into the whole history of the theater, but it's the Silent Movie Theater that's located on Fairfax. It's still there. It's always a new owner, but until there were some glory years, and in the beginning of 2000 till about 2015, 16, it was ran by Cinefamily. And our friends Debbie, Jeremy, and me, we used to go to the Friday and Saturday midnight showings, but we go to Cantor's first and eat, and then we go and stand in line and watch a movie.
Oh yeah, it was that place was magical, and it's still there. Like you said, it's still there, and it's right by Fairfax High School, which
right across the street.
Yeah, right across the street. It's such an LA experience to do, and that one that's worth it.
Super. It's also I was telling Joe in one of our episodes that the theater probably a couple blocks down the road from, or actually I think it's north, is Jay Sebring's old hair salon.
Oh yeah, right. Jay Sebring of Sharon Tate fame, one of the victims, right? He was one of the of the Manson murders. Yeah, it's all it's that part of Fairfax has always been popping, and I just remember like the way it worked that I got to live there was I had moved up there to West Hollywood, but like in West Hollywood proper. And my mom wanted to move up there in that area too. And it's like the real center of like the action, so I don't think my mom realized it, but she grew to love it. And I did too. Cause then when I got divorced, I took over her apartment. I just took, cause it was rent controlled, but yeah, it was sick living right there. There's so much that happens. They film everything there all the time. And the Silent Movie Theater, I guess, opened in 1941 was what I have some of the like dates and
February
stuff,
of 42 was actually the grand opening.
Oh, okay.
They made their first movie. But what's so cool about it's like it was really, so it came in the 40s, but it was like the only true, it was called the Old Time Theater first. It was like the only theater really that was just for silent films out here. And it was basically
kind of Oregon, right?
Yeah, the Oregon. I remember Debbie and I went to go watch, they had a Chaplin marathon. So they had all these old prints of Chaplin, even up until we were going. So it's like this thing really was like the home of silent films in LA, But let's talk about something that it's notorious for. And so you had this old theater. Here's the quick history. Cut me off if you want. But so it opened in 42. It was Dorothy Hampton and her husband, John. Yeah. So John
Hampton.
So John Hampton. So they ran the theater. They accumulate all these prints. They're from the Midwest or whatever. They move out here. They purchase this theater. So
that's important. He has tons of prints because lots and that comes back to haunt us.
Yeah, he dies because he's because you have to put it into a safety print. And when you go from nitrate, that's the kind that gets, flammable and everything. So he died from all the chemicals he had.
Well, because and because I didn't know was that they lived up there. I didn't realize there was an apartment up there. I never knew that. And I know for as long as I lived there, I feel like I didn't go there nearly enough, but I did go there, and
the old lady in the windows there.
I didn't know that. I was, obviously like the internet is filled with some pretty good, some not so good, but some pretty good little little videos that, remember, our buddy AJ Benza and his mysteries and scandals. That was
they have a great mysteries and scandals on this place.
That was the first time I think I'd ever heard of the silent movie theater, like heard of it.
Yeah. So what happened was after John passed away, they had an employee that went to the high school across the street, and his name was Lawrence Austin. So he was just he was a projectionist working there. Eventually, Dorothy gives him the theater. So he's basically
after John died, right? John died of cancer, right?
John was dead. Yeah, he died of cancer, and it was just her. And now the whole thing, they talk about Lawrence Austin. He was probably a con man. But I don't think he was a con man with bad intentions. I do think he loved movies and he was trying to get this thing up and going.
Yeah, I was gonna say I got that sort of sentiment just from the little bit of like all those videos. Shout out to all those people that made cool videos about it. And so it seemed that he I think was busted for maybe some kind of other, white, like not white collar,
little petty crime.
Crime. But I got the sense that he sort of that was sort of like penance for him, giving himself over to this devotion to these movies, holding on to these nitrate prints, and they kept him in like this one long, corridor of just thousands and thousands of canisters of films. It looked like,
Yeah, so Lawrence ended up opening a theater in I think it was early 91. They reopened the silent film theater after it was closed for like a decade. So they reopened and so they are doing that. And then was it not? So what is famous for? The most notorious thing that this place is known for. I don't know if was it 96 or 97. But
it was January of 97. So.
Okay, January 97. So Lawrence Austin is seeing a guy named James Van Sickle, right? James Van Sickle?
Yeah. Well, he works there. I guess he's the
working at the theater.
Right?
It's like his on a kind of boyfriend or whatever, and he's working at the theater. So on that
this guy's a piece of shit. This guy's a total piece of shit.
Total piece of shit. So then I believe they're playing Sunrise. The Burnout movie, Sunrise.
Yeah, I saw
Once Sunrise gets done playing, a young 19-year-old goes up to the popcorn stand and fucking blows away Lawrence Austin, and also shoots there's a girl working there too, and I forget her name.
So some say her name is Giles, like last name, but some say Mary, some say Kathy Giles, but actually what it said, again, these are some just from the YouTube videos, like it said that he was in the movie. The young man that Van Sickle hired, he was sitting down watching the movie, but then he went back up inside, like kind of in the middle of this movie, right? He gets back up, goes up to the counter, and he asked the girl first, he says, can I buy an advance ticket? Like he didn't want to just say, can I buy some candy? Because that wouldn't have brought Lawrence Austin out of his office. He needed to ask her something that would. Does that make sense? Like, in other words, if he had just said, "Give me some candy," So like, he asked the candy girl, "Oh, can I buy like tickets in advance?" And she was like, "Well, you got to talk to the owner." So that's when she got Larry Austin out from like wherever he was, and that's when he was able to shoot him in the head twice, and then he shot Mary Giles
her a couple times
in the chest a couple times, but she lived.
Yes. And you kind of said what happened. So basically, his boyfriend James Van Sickle eventually. They find out because she lives, she can identify the guy who did the shooting, who ran out the door real fast.
And Van Sickle was up he had an alibi. He was up in the projection booth running. But from what I saw too, like, didn't Van Sickle, he wasn't arrested right away.
No. Remember, he was like getting interviewed by the police.
He was getting
interviewed on the news, all kinds of crazy shit.
I was like, who is that lady? Remember back in the 90s, the white lady that said that a black man kidnapped her kids in the
Susan
car?
Smith.
Susan Smith. And it was just her. She drive. You're like, it was giving Susan Smith. You know what I mean? It was like, wait, because
that is so funny.
He had widow's weeds and crying on camera for poor his dead lover, which, you know, I'm sure the media didn't know that part. I didn't know that part either until I kind of looked more into it, you know. That was so anyway,
that's just funny. Have you ever seen Sunrise?
No,
so you know it's about it's like about the guy trying to kill his wife because he's being put up to it by his lover. It's pretty how ironic, right?
I had a feeling it was going to be something like that because this was the first time I had seen what was even playing, you know, and I'm sure being a member of Cinefam, which we're going to get to Cinefamily too.
Yeah,
don't worry, Cinefamily, we're not going to leave you out of this. But I feel like, how much of this would you say like it was kind of like known, or like the lore that among like the people that went and was, you know, like part of Cinefamily and stuff? Because I feel like a lot of it became what they say is now haunting the building, right?
Absolutely. It was so famous. Like before I even moved out here, I knew it just from the AJ Benza, the
right
Scandal show. Like I used to love that show. Me and Joe used to watch it. So like you knew of this place. Like there were certain LA places I knew would coming out.
Yeah.
Fairfax,
and this is one of
famous road, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And and it was a true silent film theater. And that's what I loved the most about it, was like, I'm a big silent film guy. And this is where like, you know, even like Chaplin and Mary Pickford, they were coming to see their own movies in the 40s.
That's what I was going to say. I thought was really fascinating too, was that a lot of the people featured in these movies would have come and sit down in what I guess one of the videos highlighted. And I remember this from when I went in like 2000. I had gone in like 2006, because maybe even, it was either 2005 or 2006. And they were open, I remember them, but it was before the like major reno of it. And I remember those seats were so fucking uncomfortable. And
unless you got the couch. The couch was cool.
Yeah, there was a couch, right? But I think it wasn't it. Somebody said it was those seats were voted the worst or most uncomfortable.
I think in America.
Seats in America, definitely in LA. Those were the most uncomfortable seats. And I remember those seats were so fucking uncomfortable.
I loved it. I loved everything. I used to have like the past, like Jeremy, Debbie, and me, we had like the full thing. I had a parking pass to park at the school across the street. I used to go every week to like every Friday. It was every Friday they'd have a midnight showing, and then 2 Saturdays there was a midnight showing, and we would just go, and like there's always people would be there, and they had cool film prints, and I don't know. I always loved that theater. I thought it was fucking cool.
Yeah. I mean, it was a unique experience beyond anything, because like you said, it was the only, and they still were using the nitrate prints, I believe, right?
No, they were not. What they do is they put a thing, it's called a safe print. And that's kind of how I think the husband, John, died, was when you do that transfer from nitrate to the safety prints. There's all
Tell me
chemicals.
more about that.
Obviously, I'm still kind of learning. So last night, or 2 nights ago, Joanna and I went to Warner Brothers, where they were having the Vitophone screening.
I was going to ask you about that.
It was pretty awesome. Like the first thing you watched was like Will Hayes came out and did his thing, and everyone's laughing in the theater.
Oh
right?
my god!
So
wait, so it was like a censor board advisory video
at the very beginning. The first thing they played was the Will Hayes intro, which is awesome. You know, we have a new era in motion pictures. You know, do that shit.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
And then it was the very beginning of Vitophone, which was the talkies with the record player next to it, you know, and so a lot of it was like vaudeville people doing acts. It was George Burns and Gracie Allen doing something, which I don't think George Burns is funny.
No, he was. I don't know.
So you're watching these old, which I love a lot of old vaudeville though. So they were really funny and they were good. But what happens was they were on safety prints and all those. And so what happens is nitrate, that's what catches on fire, the vinegar syndrome, and they're flammable, all that shit. So they everything that was on nitrate that was preserved gets put onto a regular 35, which is just basic film, but they always refer to it as a safety print.
Yeah, so like a non-toxic, more or less.
It's not going to catch on fire, correct?
Yeah. But so it was Hampton who had collected thousands and thousands of
John Hampton collected all those old silent films. And they were from Oklahoma, I believe they were living in. And he had all these film prints that came out here and opened the theater. How fucking awesome is that?
I mean, it's a great story. And I wonder truly, I wonder why the wife Mary didn't get maybe as sick, because that was what I didn't know, was that they lived right there too.
Well,
So that's why
he
I was
was
kind of like,
probably just, I mean,
interesting.
I think it was like a direct breathing thing. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think it really fluctuates throughout the whole,
Oh, I see.
yeah, I think
That
it's
makes
just, it's in
sense.
front of him. He's breathing it in, and it's not like
Yeah, yeah.
paint.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so that becomes a really haunting of the theater from 97 on. I think it closed right until Cinefamily got it. And I
Yeah,
just
instead of family, like it was probably about 10 years, roughly
yeah.
2006, 7, Cine Family opened. Now, I will say I love the layout of that theater then, whenever it had the grass on the side instead of being painted, everything was just kind of had all
You
the
mean
ivy on
outside,
it or
yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't remember if because I know Cinefamily, they had like a patio in the very back that you could
Yes.
go to,
It was always
right?
there for everybody. Yeah.
All right. And I'm like, the killer ran out, because that was what happened to the
He
James
ran out the
Austin killer.
back.
He
Correct.
ran, yeah, like what an idiot. I mean, I know he had a car waiting in the alley. It's
Fuck.
that alley was my alley. I used to access my garage from from that
Oh,
alley.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, oh, I know that alley right there.
Oh man, yeah. It's like,
Wild.
god damn, it's so crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. So just real quick, I wanted to tell you, I brought up Sunrise, which is 1927. Sunrise, directed by F.W. Murnau, a starring Carl Mayer, and, or no, sorry, that was writers George O'Brien and Janet Gaynor.
Janet Gaynor, yeah.
A sophisticated city woman seduces a farmer and convinces him to murder his wife and join her in the city, but he ends up rekindling his romance with his wife when he changes his mind at the last moment.
It's a real
ironic,
influential movie. It was like the filming techniques and stuff they did were really ahead of its time. It's considered one of the greatest movies ever. Actually,
I'm gonna check that out.
Super famous movie.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's on Tubi.
I see it on like Roku and Tubi. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, there it is. Yeah, yeah. So
Tubi has a great silent film collection, actually.
They really do. Yeah. I feel like they've got everything that you'll see, like Criterion or other like I have like a TCM watch app, but you can only access it on like certain kinds of like Fire TVs. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
So I feel like when those channels or those apps kind of like drop, they remove them for make room for their other titles. I feel like Tubi, they always stay on Tubi. Some of the most obscure stuff, like these silent films, there are tons of them on there. They're really good. So then let's talk about Cinefamily.
So yeah, so
right?
you had two very historic moments. You had the murder that happened in the 90s, and then Cinefamily takes over. And what happens in 2017, the very beginning of Me Too, the very first sexual harassment case that started this whole thing, even before Weinstein, it happened here at Cinefamily.
Well, I feel like the one that came from Cinefamily, it was more local, like it was more like an LA story, just by its definition.
But if you remember, right? Though, after that happened,
there were
all
major
those
people that were part of Cinefamily.
Right, but Cinefamily happened, and all those programs.
I'm not going to say who. I'm not going to say the.
No, Hadrian LeBub. Yeah, he was.
I know, but remember, there was an actress who had just won Best Actress at the Oscars. And she
Brie Larson.
Yeah.
Brie Larson. She hops on board and she ends up quitting.
That was one of the So that was in my memory.
It was just a blow up. It was just fucking crazy.
It just was kind of one of those stories that you add to the heap of Me Too at that time.
Do you remember, though, it happened at Cinefamily, then all those film programmers started getting busted, and then all of a sudden Weinstein came out, then it was like this whole Me Too movement. But then, but before that, it was all of these film programmers, and Cinefamily had it first. But that was right. I remember a lot of people were complaining because Brie Larson was like, at that time, the big feminist, and it was like, all this is happening there.
She had literally just because she either in her movie
she was like the owner when the owner was there. She bought into it, didn't she?
But also like she had just won her Oscar or like was about to win. So it was it was a big deal that I for me, especially living down there at that time, it was very much like a part of, or if not the beginning of the Me Too stuff, which obviously then expanded to, like Matt Lauer and daytime TV.
I mean, it went everywhere.
But in my memory, this story, even though it's like geographically a LA story, it was a big one that really kicked that movement off, you know, for better or worse.
Yeah,
it really,
yeah.
You know,
and I remember when it happened, because a lot of people that went to Cine Family were kind of like, because he was kind of a dick to people. So when it happened, a lot of the people that were going to Cine Family were like, "Fuck Adrian," you know. And I was just laughing. I was like, "Yeah, it happens."
People were. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty bad too. I guess whatever and it's all out there. Anybody can Google it. Anybody can look it up. You know.
Yeah.
But
now, you know, if you go by there, if you go by Cine Family, this is what fucking kills me. It's a silent film theater. It's this historic place. It's still there, but now it's called Brain Dead Studios, and they have like, it's a theater. They're trying to play cult movies, but there's like a cafe in the back now. It's not even part of the theater. Fuck that.
I know.
No, I think it's a great place.
Yeah, it's such a weird brand for. Listen, I probably sound like, you know, like the old fogey here, but I'm pretty sure it's kind of like a Japanese brand that I think
if you see the graphic thing on the front, you'll say that. Yeah.
Well, no, I think there's a Brain Dead Studios that said in Tokyo, so we're giving them all this free air, you know. But I feel like it's sort of a part of the vibe on Fairfax, right? In general, like sort of goes with that vibe. But yeah, I wish it was preserved more with that. But you know, I think the land itself is worth more than that's
what I'm saying. All this got me thinking about is how bad I hate Los Angeles when it comes to their history.
My God, they're the worst.
Fucking crumble anything if it like frees up $5. You know, about 10 years ago, I was on. My buddy was at Universal, and we were just walking around the lot, just looking at all the old places, and he showed me this crumbled soundstage, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this was the oldest soundstage where they filmed Phantom of the Opera, all this stuff, and they tore it down." And I was like, "Oh fuck, why would they tear this down?" And he's like, "To make more room for the line for the Fast and the Furious ride."
Oh shit! Wow. Well, you know,
Los Angeles does not care,
right? I mean, it's like Century. That's the story of Century City.
Yeah,
that one. I love that story because it has to do with Cleopatra, right? Where Cleopatra, Liz Taylor and Richard Burton's epic flop, it forced Fox to have to sell a half of its land, you know, which then became Century City. Like literally where they filmed.
Yeah,
so many of the most famous things were leveled, and they literally put skyscrapers and built Century City there, you know. So it's like so nothing's crazy. Ever preserved. Yeah, you know, it's too bad, but you know. I don't really have anything. There's no silver lining to it, you know.
There is, you know, I wanted to look up what movies took place there, you know, because there's always
I saw
the background.
Safety. I feel like I saw Safety Last there.
Oh, I mean, what movies that it was featured in, like the actual building. What Hollywood movies. And the only thing I found was there's a Dick Van Dyke, Mickey Rooney movie that Carl Reiner directed called The Comic in the late 60s. And they're walking down the street and they pass, and it was painted white at the time where it said old time movies. And they go in and see a movie in there.
Oh,
and that's the only thing I found though.
Yeah, that's what it is. Really a very LA kind of like, if you live in LA, if you have any interest in film, it is sort of like a local kind of, it's like Samuel French bookstore.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Where it's like
a staple of the city. Yeah,
it's a staple of the city, and it doesn't have like a big reach beyond. But people still come from, you know, they come from all over the world. At least they did, you know.
Yeah. So did you see Safety Last there? You said.
I feel like I saw that. I don't remember for sure if it was Safety Last, but in my mind I'd seen it there, because when I saw it, it was whatever I saw in 2006, maybe 2005. It had there was somebody playing the organ. I'll never forget.
That's so cool.
A film course at LA City College, and it was kind of like an extra credit assignment. Was like, hey, there's this silent movie theater. Go support them and see this movie. And I feel like it was Safety Last, but I could be wrong. And so, I'll never forget. I was sent there like as a school extra credit assignment, which is why I feel like is another reason why it makes it such a very LA thing, because, you know, it's like not everybody's school gets, you know, recommends to go to the only silent movie theater in the country, you know, and it's too bad it's not there, you know. But yeah, that street Fairfax is really getting developed. Really,
I know,
really
it's so sad when we lose like these historic spots, you know. I mean, especially this theater. I hope it does stay and somebody eventually picks it up and turns it back into I love watching silent films in theaters. And, this weekend we're going to Vidiot's to watch Buster Keaton, Steamboat Bill Jr. So I'm like, they still play in LA, it's like, it's just a shame that you lose them.
I feel like theaters. Portland has a good amount of even single screen theaters, but also there's this one here. I don't know if you've ever been up here, but there's the Hollywood Theater is
I've
really
heard of
beautiful.
the Hollywood Theater up there.
Yeah, I've been to see a lot of movies there with Brie just since being here. And
that's cool.
Yeah, there's a good scene up here. There's a really good scene of like small theaters that I feel like there's almost more small theaters than there are big ones, but there are big theaters.
It's getting that way.
Yeah. Nobody wants to even go to the big movie theaters anymore. It's like,
I know. It's like we're the only ones that keep theaters alive is going to see this stuff.
If I'm going to go, I'd love to be one of these old single screens with that experience. I'd love to go. Yeah, exactly. Like if I'm going to go now, it's got to be, some kind of extra reason to be there.
I mean, except for like certain special, screenings, most of the time I go to the New Bev, and it was cool the other night going to see the Vitophone stuff because they brought out the old projector and they actually put the record down and had to sync it up at the same time, and it was really cool.
Was that did you go with Paul or
no? Joanna and I went to that one. Paul and I are going to go to Vidiot's to see Buster.
So was it Joanne? Like, what was the in for that one?
It was like Warner Brothers. They do these screenings, and
it's like open.
It's pretty much open if you sign up for them or whatever. And their theater is pretty nice. It's a brand new one.
I miss that stuff about LA. I was just thinking about
I'm telling you, that's one of the great parts. Everyone's like, I don't care how much of a bum you are. You can end up inside a studio a lot if you want to,
Yeah, no, for sure. That's the fun part, Yeah. So this, this movie theater, do you know anything about that? What do you think about the haunting? Do you think it's haunted? Because
so I was watching a couple videos about that. Fuck no, I don't. But not that I think anyone lies. I just think if you hear
some of these
noise,
videos I saw were ridiculous. Some of the videos, it was
you hear like the slightest little like anything happens. They're like, "What was that? What was that?" And they start looking around like, "Hey, it's fucking nothing." I mean, it is definitely. It holds its own when you call it a cursed theater. I mean, you have a murder, you have this guy who swindles this old lady out of her theater, and then that happens to him. You have the beginning of the whole sexual harassment movement. Starts
just
there.
Bad juju,
man. Yeah, it's sad because it's a fucking kick-ass theater. It's an historic theater. Cantor's is awesome to go eat. Like it's the whole experience is fun, and it's like that was.
And it was never preserved. The city never like gave it its like a historic landmark designation or anything, which is sad because it's like I can't think of something more historic than this theater, especially when you think of the likes of like Charlie Chaplin and Marion Davies or whoever like going to see their own movies sitting there. Yeah, and it's true they all did, and like even was it you? I think was it you and Deb? I went there to see. We saw Al Pacino. Remember?
Yes,
that was
yes.
I was with.
That was okay. Yeah. We saw Pacino there. That might be one of my favorite memories there because he's all drunk and shit.
I know. Like, wasn't it like his? It was like something he directed. It was.
Yeah, we watched Looking for Richard.
Yeah, but it was kind of like, yeah, good job, Al. Good job.
I mean, it was fun just because he was there and he was wacky.
That was
in the movie.
He was wacky. That was a lot of fun.
That was a fun time. I had a really good time at that screening. But they always had great people showing up like that. Like it really was like, because the other theaters, there's a little bit more money behind it. Like this is truly like a charity case. Remember Robert Downey Jr. bought them the projector, and like people were really doing favors for these guys. Like everyone was coming out. It was I think their employees worked for free. I mean, they were really, it was the most like hands-on film community, and it's just sad that it's not around.
Yeah, because you could tell it was there. What do they say? There, but for the grace of God. In other words, like there, but for the grace of cinephiles, of true cinema, fanatics that can appreciate just all of that history and not on the necessity to hold on to those.
Have you seen the documentary about it? I think it's called The House of Silence.
About the silent movie theater?
It used to be on Prime, but it's not anymore. I saw it a few years ago. I haven't seen it recently, but I think it's called The House of Silence.
I have to look for that because all I could find, like I was saying, were like these shitty, YouTube videos of like, paranormal investigations.
Oh yeah, fuck all that.
And none of
like
it,
if you want to look up stuff online, the Dearly Departed guy, Scott Michaels, who does remember the old death tours?
The death
he
tour
has a great one where he goes and just talks. It's his voice on his cell phone talking, but his information is always great. So he has one that's pretty good on YouTube. There's the Mysteries and Scandals one, and
which I think is the apex. That's the that's
they
the AJ Benza's is the best one. Yeah, exactly. Nailed it in 20 minutes.
Everything you need to know in 20 minutes is on that one. And then the House of Silence documentary. I think House of Silence. So I think if you and that really just goes into the case a little more in depth. James Van Sickle, because he was interviewed by the cops so many times. He's on video. Times.
Oh,
he really is a character.
Yeah. He was interviewed by the local media too, with his pleas of, oh my god, we have to find.
Yeah, we got to bring this killer to justice.
Oh my god, yeah.
They said, I saw an interview with a cop. He said that to this day, James Van Sickle will not admit he did this, and he's just rotting in prison, and he will not say he did it.
That's what I was going to ask was what's his status? Like, is he still alive?
He got life in prison,
and he's still in jail. Then, yeah.
But if you want to admit it, the problem about not admitting it is you'll never get paroled.
You never get paroled. Yeah. Well, maybe that's a good thing, because if I remember correctly,
he had a rap sheet.
He had a rap sheet.
Yeah.
And he had something like he had caught a attempted murder charge.
Yeah. He was like a violent rap sheet. Yeah.
Yeah. Before you even met Larry. Poor Larry.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, there are con men out there that do, like, maybe his past was shady, but like he really did love these movies, and he was trying, Exactly. They buried him with a Stan Laurel autograph that he had.
Oh,
like,
exactly. I got the vibe that Larry kind of maybe realized his error of his ways, perhaps, and like was trying to devote himself to this preservation, like almost like a religion, and almost like a penance for what he had done, perhaps, and because his life was on the straight and narrow once he really took over this theater and really made it what it became.
He had a great they had a great run for about 5-6 years. He did a great job, and then that's it.
And I wonder if, like, because when I watched the interviews of Larry and James Van Sickle, like, I mean, my gaydar blew up, like I got to take it to the shop. It broke. Like I was like, oh, okay, well, these two queens, right? And I can say that, obviously, but yeah, I didn't realize that it was like a gay love, and okay, so I don't know if we mentioned, though, Van Sickle had somehow he had gotten, they say either through force or through forgery, that like he had gotten Larry to make him his beneficiary.
He had everything in the will, the money, the theater, everything went to him. And that's really what the cops kind of knew what was up there.
Exactly. Yeah. Which Larry himself, like we said before, he may or may not have gotten it, but at least he, in that same kind of murky way. But it, like, his devotion,
and that's how they busted him. Remember, like, once they knew about him getting everything, they just had to catch him. So they ended up hiring a cop, an undercover, to pretend he was a hitman, because
that's right.
James Van Sickle, he wanted to whack the kid who
he wanted to hit the hitman.
So they ended up busting him. I fucking love that.
Yeah. He basically put it out on a word out on the street. Looking for another hitman. He had already gotten this poor kid to do it for 25 grand. And then he told him, if you kill, I'll give you another $5,000 to kill the candy girl, to kill the kid.
Yeah. This guy's like, what, 19, just had a baby. Yeah. I mean, what a fucking dummy, it's like.
Well, yeah. No, dummy is Van Sickle, man. They have him, because his phones were tapped. They have him calling the dude, or like, paging him, saying, like, we need to talk. I've got something.
Yeah, I got something for you.
Like, as I was going to say is, poor Lawrence Austin, R.I.P. But like this whole case was obviously done before the internet and before social media. You know what I mean? Because like, it was just so obvious and sloppy. Because it was like the kid needed a way to get Lawrence Austin out into the lobby so he could shoot him, and then he didn't kill the girl, and then like weirdness. And I think what makes it even more kind of creepy, spooky is that he ran, like we said, through the back through the darkened theater and up onto the little stage, and then crazy. Out the back, it's wild.
And it's not a big like facility, the whole, like the front and the back and everything. So it's like, so
it's like a storefront. It's like a store.
Yeah, it's a storefront. It's so creepy just to think about how he ran out there, and if you were there when it saw that, fuck.
He must have. Now I think about it, he must have emptied that barrel into those people, because it said he shot the girl twice in the chest, and he shot Larry like either one thing. He shot him twice in the head.
Then he shot a couple in the
he shot
air.
him 2 more times in the body, or like somewhere.
But then he had to shoot in the air too whenever he was running out of the theater, they said.
Oh, he did?
Yeah,
what
like they kind of cleared, like he had to shoot. He shot a couple rounds up at the ceiling.
Oh, as he was coming back through?
Yeah, as he was cutting back through, so nobody would attack him or whatever.
So nobody would, because it would have been dark. Oh,
he emptied out that clip.
Yeah, I know. We're all over here doing the forensic, like mapping out the bullet. I think we've cracked the case, guys.
We cracked the case. We cracked the case. No, but it was one of the great theaters in Los Angeles, and I don't know. I do. It's one of the few places I wish that would come back. And if I had the money, I'd do it myself.
Yeah. It's very. Where's Quentin?
I know, right? I wish he would have bought that. I mean, I'm glad he's buying what he's buying, but that was one I wish he would have picked up. I don't think you've got to be a diehard silent film fan. I mean, well, you can't even own that and do anything else. But this new thing kind of sucks. I don't care about what they're playing. It's made for silent films.
Yeah. Well, especially because, I mean, I'm sorry, but in LA, for somewhere that has, for a place with no parking, and to have still so many devotees, like if you know LA, you know that, like, oh, I must really love this place if I'm going to go and there's no parking. High school. Right. Yeah.
And I love that shit. And they ended that. I was so mad. It changed everything. That was like when they jumped the shark, when they got rid of the school parking.
I blame Van Sickle, man. I hope
Van Sickle, man.
I hope he's rotting in jail. Yeah. Oh my God, he's gonna come after us. He's gonna hire a hitman to hit the hitman.
Van Sickle.
What an idiot! He tried to hire a fucking another hitman to kill the hitman.
I know, that's pretty classic.
The silent movie theater was like a time machine.
When we went to the silent movie theater, we had this strange sensation that we were the only people in the world who had access to those movies.
I had no idea anything like that existed anywhere in the world.
It was a secretive place, sort of a house of secrets.
It's the most Hollywood thing that you could be, because on the surface, it's all glamorous and Art Deco and wonderful and clean, and underneath there's a roiling, dark, noirish subtext.
Murder, and people go to prison, and lives are ruined.
It's Sunset Boulevard, it's Hollywood Gothic.
The theater gets sold, and is it going to stay open, or is it going to close?
Everybody who lives in LA knows that place. But mostly, I would say 99.9% of the people who've driven down Fairfax their entire life have seen it, never went inside.
The theater just has a magic about it. It just hangs in there, despite all the many problems it's had over the years. And it's not the most comfortable theater in the world, but it's unique.